insurance policy called a for consultants, so that anything you say can't be held against you because you're not responsible for people's results. All that shit. Especially if you're coining yourself in an expert in a field that is like something like medical marijuana. We're going to get into all that. But okay, so how to write a book. You want to just brain vomit everything onto a mind map, and you want to write it all out and organize it. This is the framework. Here's one of many frameworks. Hold on, give me a second. Man, I haven't talked this much in a while. You want to talk about how it's a brand new reality. This is a new reality. We're in the future. There's a new reality. There's a new way. When you start talking about stuff like that in the beginning of your book, here it is. I'm downloading the free guide to my book, and I learned all this stuff from experts. I didn't make any of this up, right? Okay, so there's different levels of this. You want to raise necessity. Raising necessity is the first step of influence. You want to tell people why they need to listen right now. No other time. You need to drop everything you're doing and listening to me right now. What I'm about to share with you is so incredibly powerful that I'm even feeling lucky and blessed that I even know this stuff and I'm in the know, because those who are in the know are the people who are going to make it through or are going to prosper, and those who aren't in the know about this new thing are literally going to fall by the wayside. So you need to get present with me right now. I'm raising necessity, because if you don't raise necessity, you just get into the content or to start writing the book. If they don't know why they should choose and prioritize reading your book right now over everything else they could be doing important in their life, then they're probably not going to read your book, right?
Right.
So you raise necessity and you talk about things. There's a new reality. The old ways don't work anymore. Are you aware of this? All the ways that worked for everybody else, that's gone, and they're not telling you because they already profited off that and then moved on. They're not gonna. Nobody knows this stuff, but I'm telling you, there's a whole new wave happening right now. You know what I'm talking about?
A blue ocean.
There's a blue ocean. Blue Ocean Strategy is an amazing book. You need to read it. Don't be in a red ocean. So, I say in my book, don't skip through this book with the intentions of wanting to learn how to. I promise it'll lead you down a dead-end road. We're going to discuss in great detail, but I need to raise the necessity. So, okay, you want to talk about the current state of the industry, or the current state of this thing. Where is it at right now? The current state is this is a $50 billion a year industry you're thinking about getting into. This thing is way bigger than you're even aware of. If you're looking for some opportunity, it's definitely here. So you got to let them know that they've come to the right place. That they don't have to look any further. This is it. Does that make sense, Mike?
Yeah, it sure does.
You always have to let people know they're in the right place. When they know they're in the right place, they don't look any further. I'm in the right place. And you're going to let them know they're in the right place. Next thing is you have to tell them the good news. Be the bringer of good news. When you tell them good news in your book or in anything, it's all frameworks. There's great news I got to share with you. This opportunity or this new thing or this way of being or this spiritual enlightenment or this product or this marijuana or this new strains, and the way they're making it is so clean that all the other stuff you've learned before in the past about this or was brainwashed in your head, you can put that all aside, because there is a whole new finding. And this is great news, because now we're at this is great news. Okay, good news. But the next thing you want to tell them is you want to go in the reciprocal of that and go, but there's bad news. Bad news? What do you mean, right? So when you're talking about this, you're positioning yourself as an authority, because how do you know all this stuff? People have to listen. They're hanging on every word you're saying. The bad news is Most people don't succeed, or most people don't know about this. Most people, if you're not aware, of the bad news, like, is the bad news is this is few and far in between right now. This is hard to find. Like, you know what I'm saying? The bad news. Okay, so the next thing is you want to talk about where do they stand in all this, right? What about you? Where do you stand in all this? Who wins and who loses in this new reality? I told you the new reality. There's a new way, a new era, whatever works for your audience. There's good news and there's bad news, but who wins and who loses? We don't talk about the people who win or the people who actually find the right chemistry. They get into the right groups. They get in early. They become a founder. They invest now. The people who lose are the people who stand behind the wayside and do nothing, or they get the wrong information, or they're still paying attention to the old ways. So, okay, now the next thing you want to talk about is the biggest obstacles people face. Now that you've quantified that for them, you want to start to talk about what are the biggest obstacles people face. You know, what are the problems when they're trying to overcome this? What do they run into? What stops them from being successful? Very, very important. And the next thing you want to talk about is you get right to it. You talk about how to make a ton of money in this business, or how to get the best results now, or how to leverage this thing for yourself. You want to talk about the benefits that they're going to get on the highest potential level. Cool?
Yes.
In your book. Then the next thing, you know, you're talking about everything they're going to learn in the book. You're giving them a preface and of an overview. You could do this in a very light spiritual way. It doesn't have to be so structured depending on what you're talking about. Is the tools, techniques, and tips. So you're actually going to give them the tools, the techniques, and the tips, and the how-to, and all that. They're going to get the whole enchilada. They're going to get the toolkit. They're going to... Don't worry. If you're the type of person who likes that stuff, we're going to actually give you the tools. So you can go out and do it, and you can take this information, harness it, and do it yourself. You're a DIYer, right? Do it yourselfer. And then we're going to talk about pricing and selling tips, or how to actually set up and register, or how to actually get into it. You're going to talk about how you can actually take this information now that you have it and you have the tools, so you can actually start your own thing or harness it into your own hands, or maybe you can grow it yourself. How do you actually do that? Or maybe you can get the information so you know how to make it work for you and develop your own proprietary system that becomes your own thing, right? Clay pottery, knitting, sewing, mechanic, it doesn't matter what it is. And then the next thing is, how do you take this and move on beyond yourself and start and set up your own business and market, sell it online, or share it with other people? How do you get other people involved in this? How do you become a leader and an influencer yourself? How do you register your own business? How do you take this information and use it to empower other people, right? Or build a legacy for yourself. So when you give people all that, you're covering the whole enchilada after you've raised the necessity, and they're like, well, dude, I need to read this. And then literally as you start unpacking, the key word is unpacking the information. You're unpacking the book. You don't just get right into the how-to stuff. You got to really grip them and compel them to the point where they're like, just give me it. Like, they can't stop reading it. That's how you deliver information to people, so they're just like,
Yeah.
you know,
Can't put it down. Can't put the book down.
Can't put the book down. And because you can literally, like I said, you can literally just give them all the meat and potatoes in 6 or 7 pages. Okay, there's the whole book.
Yeah.
There's a famous, I'm about to run out of time here, but there's a famous saying, a wise writer or something came to a king who was the noblest king of all. He was the smartest king and all knowing and all wise or something. And he said, I want to know, like, I learned this by Jim Rohn. I want to know, like the most powerful words about life, and I want you to write it down. And he came back with like 40 pages, and the king read it all. He's like, well, you got to make this shorter. It's too much. And he wrote it back. It was like 20 pages after like 2 weeks. He's like, well, you got to make it shorter, like, you know. And he kept coming back and back and back and months. He's like, we got to condense this down to like the most powerful wisdom of life. And he finally kept coming back to the king. And after like 6 months of this shit, he finally shows up to the king, and he says, I've been able to condense it all down into one sentence. And the king's like, yes, now let me read it. And like, it was, there ain't no free lunch. That's what it was. Like, it was like the most, you know, and that just actually encompasses a lot of stuff. You know, there ain't no free lunch. And so you can give somebody the meat and potatoes, but it doesn't matter unless you build all the anticipation and all that around it because you really just deliver the goods and the valuables. Facts tell, stories sell. For some reason, when you tell people stories and case studies and testimonials, it really hooks into their belief, because when people believe it, they can move at quantum stellar speeds when they believe it. So your job is to transfer enthusiasm and belief to people, and they believe that they can do it. And then once you can get them to that point and you build all that momentum, then by the time you actually give them the meat and potatoes in the book, boom, it's like nothing to them. So change happens in an instant, right? But it can take years to get to that point. So that's why you compress and you put all that inside of a book. And then there's my blueprint. I hope you can see that. Can you see that? Yeah, right there. That's a blueprint on a mind map. You see that?
Oh, yeah. Nice.
That's my blueprint. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. We're going to talk about how you can syndicate your book and sell it and monetize it, make money online. And then we're going to talk about live events, your live event, speaking engagements as a public speaker, and then your own live event, and now how you can actually leverage yourself being able to speak at live events and get your foot in the door, because you are in the live event business